Make America Great Again hats out here.
We're gonna do like a space tour.
Bikers for Trump?
Yes, sir. How are you?
Backstage. There's a lot of patriots back there waiting to come out and talk. How y'all doing? There's my wife. I missed her. She's over there in the corner. It's good to see you all. You came out for the right guy. Thanks for showing up. So, folks. Did you see Hannity last night? Yeah! Latest SmackDown. I'm tired of this Spygate stuff. Everything's an outrage campaign with these guys, these media people. I'm done with it. Count me out. I'm on the side of freedom and liberty. You should be too. No more time for fake media outrage campaigns with this guy. And it's time we all said so. So, folks, I don't get out a lot. I don't have a bunker like Mark Levin, but a semi-bunker. It's not as good as I've seen Mark's bunkers, right, Paula? They're pretty good. But I kind of have a semi-bunker in my house. I don't come out that often. But when I do, I know I could be sarcastic at times, but I really mean it. I only do for people like, yeah, you'd never guess, right? If you ever listen to my podcast, you probably figured that out. But Ron really matters to me, folks. Ron DeSantis is without a doubt the best candidate for governor in this race. There's absolutely no question. Let me tell you, anybody can say that. I'm going to tell you why, though. Listen, talking points are useless. That's liberal stuff. I'm going to give you the actual meat and potatoes. But I want to tell you first, I want to tell you a quick story about Ron. So, I used to live in Maryland. I'm a new Floridian. Yeah? Did you? He voted for me. 2 million more, we would have been okay. We were right there. We lost by a sliver. Actually, one race we did, but the Senate race we got kind of crushed. But listen, I fought for what I believed in. So, I'm up in Maryland, and I'm getting an oil change, oddly enough, at a Jiffy Lube, and I get a call from a guy. He's a writer at Conservative Review. You guys may know him, but he's a really good guy. I'm going to leave his name out of it. But he called me really depressed, and he said, Dan, I just can't take it anymore. I forget exactly what the debacle of the day for the rhinos was. There's so many of them, I forget. Was it the Cromnibus, immigration sellouts? I don't know what it was, but it was another rhino debacle. And he says, I just don't know what to do. There's so few of us left, and I'm writing all these pieces, and we're trying to get good conservatives in there, and we're just overwhelmed. And I said, is there anybody left up there? Anybody you trust? Because he deals with them all the time. And he was talking about up on the Hill. And he said, yeah. He said, Mike Lee's a great guy. I like Mike Lee. He said, Ted Cruz is solid. He said, but there's this guy. By the way, this is a true story. Now, one scintilla of this is hyperbole or exaggeration. He said, there's this guy in the Congress who's a real warrior. I said, who? He said, his name's Ron DeSantis. And I said, you know what? I've heard of Ron before. He said, let me tell you something. This guy bleeds conservative blood. This guy is with us on everything. And if we had 200 plus Ron DeSantis in the Congress, we wouldn't be in the position we are today. Now, since I've moved to Florida, by the way, the swing state. We're not a swing state. We are the power players here. We pick presidents. We are the swing state. You are in the political epicenter of the known universe right here. And the governor of this state should represent our values. And this guy on that sign, Ron DeSantis, is that guy. So, I've had the pleasure of meeting and talking to Ron repeatedly. And like I said, I don't come out and do these often, almost never. Matter of fact, I just did one with the great one, Mark Levin down at Jupiter. Who's better than Mark? And we had another 1,400 people there for Ron. But talking to Ron, let me tell you why it matters, folks. You know, we're at a time right now, a critical time. You know, the party of the John F. Kennedy Democrat is dead. The John F. Kennedy Democrat has a new name now. Maxine, I was going in a different direction. The John F. Kennedy Democrat, candidly, is now a moderate Republican. There is no such thing as, my mother was a John F. Kennedy Democrat. They believed in reasonable taxes, limited government, ask not what your country can do for you. That is dead. Put a nail in that coffin and bury it. That Democrat Party is done. And if you don't recognize the fight we're in as being an ideological one, and you think it's strictly a political one, you are in the wrong game, on the wrong field, at the wrong time.
Wake up!
This new Democrat Party is not kidding around. They are playing for keeps. Ron DeSantis understands, unlike these liberal Democrats in this party that's been hijacked by this far left radical ideology. He understands that your money is your money. It's not their money. These liberals talk about your money as if you work for them. You don't work for them. Why, I will proudly, and I know everyone in this room would say the same thing, work your tail off to put money in the pockets of our brave military men and women fighting for freedom overseas. You're darn right. The brave police officers protecting this event right here. And these Secret Service agents behind us protecting a great patriot in Don Jr. That's not the government we're paying for anymore. We have seen an explosion in people's entire lifestyles revolves around the government paying them not to work. I'm not saying there aren't people who are genuinely in need, and there's not a role for government. There is a role for government. We're the richest country on earth. But we should never, ever turn from a safety net to a hammock you get to sleep in all the time. It is your money. You work for it. It should be in your pockets, folks. Working until June to support everyone else but your own family. It's outrageous. Ron understands it's your money. It belongs in your pocket. And thank you for your service, sir. Your health care. I hear this ridiculous, absurd complaint about Ron. I'm sorry, I don't do the Republican on Republican. I don't care. I know who the best candidate is, Ron DeSantis. End of story. But I'm sorry, I gotta fight back against this stupid complaint I've heard about Ron. Oh, he's up in D.C. What do you think he's doing? Playing bocce ball up there? Right in D.C. By the way, we live in Florida. You think Ron was? I love D.C. I lived up in Maryland for a while. It's no Florida, okay? I'm sorry. Given the chance, D.C., Florida. It's always Florida, hands down. 9 out of 10 times and twice on Sunday. What do you think Ron's doing up there? You're darn right he's doing his job. And you know what his job has been? Trying to get rid of this disastrous Obamacare, passing these tax cuts, and let me tell you something, because this is important. He has been going after the people behind this absolutely destructive and devastating effort to rip down our President of the United States by spying on his campaign, while everyone else doing nothing. You've got these Democrats and these rhinos out there, oh, it's a big conspiracy theory. Really? Because we have a whole bunch of emails of a guy working for the FBI acknowledging he's trying to contact people on the Trump team to spy for. Oh, it's a big conspiracy theory, except it actually happened. Who do you think's going after these guys and trying to get some accountability for you? Ron! What do you think he's doing up there? Tiddlywinks? Minecraft in his office? He's up there trying to get accountability from Strzok and Comey and Brennan, this disgrace, John Brennan. Disgrace! Called the president treasonous. John Brennan, the worst CIA director in American history, called this president, this patriot we have, fighting for your money, your wallets, your health care, and your freedom, your Second Amendment rights, called them treasonous. Who do you think's fighting against those guys? It ain't the Democrats, and it ain't the rhinos. It's Ron. Finally, folks, one thing that gets left behind, because I'm a Floridian now, I've only been here 3 years, but gosh, this is the most beautiful place on earth. Thank God every day you live here. I mean it. I don't ever use the Lord's name in vain. You go to sleep every night, and thank God you live in the United States at this time, in this place, with this president in this state now. But let me debunk one more silly attack on Ron, which is outrageous. He's up in D.C. like it's a party up there. Ron DeSantis gives a damn about Florida. Ron DeSantis is a Floridian. Nobody knows that lake issue better than Ron. We've got a big toilet bowl in the middle of the state ruining all of our water. Who do you think's going to get it done? DeSantis is going to get it done. He's going to fix it. They act like, oh yeah, Ron, he's up in D.C. Who do you think is going to fix that dike? That's a federal project. Ron knows these issues, ladies and gentlemen. And one more point, because I want to turn this over to Casey. By the way, I'm glad I spoke before Ron's wife, because Paula, right? Is she not amazing? Yeah. Really, you don't want to talk after her. Talk before Casey. She's so good. One thing that gets left out with Ron, the civil rights issue of our time, folks, is our education system. And our Florida education system, we have to be honest with you, is struggling. It's been struggling for a long time. It's just under the Scott regime of the last 8 years that we started to turn things around with school choice and giving parents options for their kids. Let me tell you from the heart that nothing matters more to Ron DeSantis than your kids' education. The next generation of Floridians, all that technical know-how and those jobs are going to be created by your kids and grandkids in great schools that Ron DeSantis is 100% committed to, ladies and gentlemen. Don't ever, ever let anyone tell you otherwise. Well, you get rid of, you're darn right, get rid of Common Core. The only thing common about Common Core is it's crap. That's what's common about it. Creates equality and stupidity everywhere. Ridiculous. Folks, before I turn it over to Casey, you voting's not good enough. This is Florida. It's a state of 20 million people. We're the third biggest state in the union right now. You voting's not good enough. The left is not kidding around. This is not a golf game, okay? In other words, you just can't quit. Golf, you can quit, right? I love it. It's my favorite analogy ever. Golf, you're golfing, you quit, nobody cares. The guy behind you plays through. The golf guy gets his money for the course. You go home, everything's fine and dandy. No, no, no. That's not Florida politics. You can't quit. This is a boxing match. When you quit and put your hands down, the other guy's still kicking your ass. They are coming for keeps. They are not kidding, these Democrats. Levine, Gillum, all of them. They want your firearms, they want your money, they want your health care, and they want your kids. You showing up by yourself is not good enough. You're darn right we gotta be together. You need to leave today and grab 10 people on email and 10 people on social media, or make 10 phone calls, or drive 10 people to the polls and get Ron DeSantis in office so we can save freedom, save liberty, save your gun rights, save your money, and save the great state of Florida. Go out and vote Ron DeSantis! Vote DeSantis! Yeah! All right. You guys are awesome. Don't forget to vote. Now, thank God I spoke before, Casey DeSantis.
I'll tell you what, he is a really tough act to follow. I'm not going to kid you. When I heard that Dan Bongino was going to be here, I was like, can I go first? And then you can have Dan, and then you can have Ron, and then you can have Donald Trump Jr., you know, have the weak lead, you know, in the beginning. But thanks for being here. I'm super humbled and extremely honored to introduce my better half, Ron DeSantis, who, by the way, will be the next governor of the great state. Campaign is really heating up. Ron's back there. We're getting some poll results back, and it's exciting because the conservative grass movement, they're talking. They've realized Ron's a great guy. They've seen him in the race. They've seen him on Fox News. They've seen his commercials. They've seen him campaigning, and we've had some really great support. We've had people like Dan Bongino, who, by the way, did you see Dan Bongino last night on Fox News on Hannity? To the next governor of the great state of Florida, Ron DeSantis.
Thank you guys for coming out. It's great to be here. want to thank my wife, as always, for her great support. If I do half as well as governor as I did marrying, this state's going to be in a great shape, isn't it? You know, my wife and I were out to dinner recently, and, you know, in the Congress, when we vote on the House floor, it's not, you know, oral yay or nay. You get issued a voting card when you get there. It's like an ID card. It's got your picture, says House of Representatives. You put it in the voting machine, yes, no. There is a button for present, but that's only Barack Obama that would vote present, so I don't do that. And so you use it a lot. Well, it's time to pay the bill when we're out to dinner. I thought I grabbed my Visa card, but I accidentally grabbed my House of Representatives voting card and put it in the bill. A couple minutes later, the server comes back, opens up the bill, looks at the card, sees the mugshot, looks at me, sees U.S. House of Representatives on the card and said, "Sir, we can't accept this here. You're already $19 trillion in debt." I'm working on it. We just need more Republicans up there. You know, it's good to be here. I want to thank Dan Bongino, obviously Casey. You know, Congressman Matt Geatz was supposed to come. I think he's on his way, but he's late, so we're going to start the show. We had to start the show without him, but he's been a good friend and has been helping out. And look, you know, the good thing about coming up on this primary for governor is that the voters, Republican voters in Florida, have a very clear choice as to who they want to lead the state. You know, Adam Putnam, although, you know, I respect him, he is somebody who is a career politician. He's been in office since he was 22 years old. He's a transactional Republican, and he is the choice of every insider in Tallahassee and the good old boys up in Tallahassee.
Drain the swamp!
He's the crown prince of crony capitalism. He's the toast of Tallahassee. So that's your choice there, and for some people that's good. I, on the other hand, am an Iraq veteran. I'm a principled, proven conservative leader. And I am endorsed by the President of the United States. And so I think the choice is important because Governor Rick Scott, I think, has done a great job for this state. And we have an opportunity to build off what Governor Scott has done and have success like this state has never seen with our economy, with education, with public safety, fixing our courts, you name it. But none of that is going to be possible if we go back to the days of Charlie Crist, where the good old boys in Tallahassee ran the show, where we didn't have leadership in the governor's office, and we can't take that risk of going backwards to the days of Charlie Crist. We got to go forward, and that's what we're going to do. And see, here, there's just a lot of issues that I think crystallize the choice. You know, Dan mentioned what's going on with the water in Florida. I mean, it's important to the state. I mean, you know, we have boaters, we have fishermen, we have people who enjoy our natural resources, and yet you've had an unprecedented bloom of toxic algae spewing out of Lake Okeechobee. It affects people in different parts of the state different ways. Southwest Florida's getting killed, Treasure Coast, but it is going up into the St. Johns River. And the thing is, it's doing that. Adam Putnam is not going to do anything about it. Why? Because he's in the pocket of big sugar. That's why. Let's just be honest about it. He's got millions and millions of dollars in direct and indirect contributions. That industry spent $5 million attacking me with fake news over the last several months. Hasn't worked. And if you ever see, incidentally, if you see any of if they go back at it again, or Putnam stuff, and you believe any of the ads you see that attack me, just come talk to me after this, because I got a bridge to nowhere in Alaska I'd like to sell you. So that's just the reality. So who are you going to stand with? Are you going to stand with the rank and file taxpayers, the fishermen, the boaters, the property owners, or are you going to side with an entrenched interest? I'm standing with the people of Florida, and we're going to fix the problem. Another example that I think is very important is the issue of illegal immigration. When Adam Putnam was in the U.S. Congress, he was the only Republican in the entire state of Florida to join with Nancy Pelosi, to join with Maxine Waters, to vote against allowing our military to help secure the southern border. The only Republican in Florida to do that. He endorsed the Obama-Schumer Gang of Eight immigration amnesty, which was the biggest amnesty in history. It would have lowered wages for working Americans, including blue-collar workers here in Florida. And when we had a chance in Florida, you know, people think immigration's all about federal. Yeah, a lot of it is. But in Florida, we had a chance right here in Florida. Didn't need Washington to do E-Verify in the state of Florida. Very simple. Just so people, if they're here legally, you check, you hire them. If they're not, then they can't be hired. That's what the law says. If you did E-Verify, that's the single best thing you can do to reduce illegal immigration, because that's the #1 reason people come illegally. So we had a chance to do that here in Florida. There was a bill pending in the Florida Senate. It was a very close vote. Adam Putnam didn't support E-Verify. He went on the floor and lobbied against E-Verify and helped kill it. So you think yourself, you're saying you're putting Florida first. Who are you putting first? E-Verify is good for taxpayers in Florida. It's good for the rule of law in Florida. And it will lead to higher wages for our workers here in Florida. So why would you oppose it? He opposed it because his big donors want cheap foreign labor. That is wrong. When I'm governor, I will sign E-Verify into law in the state of Florida. Another thing, I think the difference between a politician and a leader is how you conduct yourself, whether you're willing to stand on principle, whether you're willing to recognize the truth. Now, we had a debate a couple weeks ago on Fox News, and you know, Brett Baer nailed Adam about all the things he said about our president when we were trying to defeat Hillary Clinton. He said he was vile, obscene, dishonorable, all these other things. I pointed out, if you were such a supporter, how come no one ever saw you at a Trump rally? You couldn't have found him at a Trump rally if you had a search warrant. And here's the thing, it's not even a nitpick about who did this or who did that. It's a politician, a career politician, will always try to obfuscate and hide from their record and pretend they're something they're not. You got to own what you've done, and he was not willing to do that on that stage. And so I think that that's a problem. And look, I mean, there's a reason why Donald Trump endorsed me in this race, because he knows I'm a leader. We have important work to do regarding education in this state. Adam Putnam supported the implementation of Common Core in Florida. I oppose Common Core, and we need to change it. I also believe that parents are best situated to make decisions about their kids' education. Bureaucracies that aren't responsive to the people and the taxpayers are just not going to do as good a job as the parents who know what their children need. So I'm going to make sure that we empower parents as much as we can to make choices about their kids' education. I also think that if you look at the economy, as much as people say you got to go to, when I was growing up, they said you got to go to college or you can't be successful. And don't get me wrong, we have a great university system here in Florida. I think it's one of the best in the country now. And there's a lot of great universities throughout our country. But the idea that you can only be successful by going to college is not true. A 4-year brick and ivy is one way to go, but it's not the only way. And it's not the best way for a lot of people. The last thing you want is to someone get a degree that doesn't really represent anything. Yeah, you got $60,000, $70,000 in debt, but if you end up in a job you could have out of high school, what good is that doing you? So I want to make sure that our schools are providing opportunities for concrete skills and vocational training. Things like the skilled trades, but also things like computers and technology. And if we're going to grade schools in Florida and a school's doing a good job at doing industry certifications, then they should get a higher grade as a result of doing that. I think that's a good deal, and I think that'll benefit the economy. I think that'll give people more opportunity. But regardless of whether we're preparing a student to go to a 4-year college or whether preparing them to go out into the workforce shortly after high school, we have a responsibility to understand that we're preparing all the people that come through our school for citizenship. And to me, that means we got to get the Constitution back in the classroom in a very big way. You can't just say you're going to do it a day or a week. I think it really needs to be a comprehensive study about the principles that make our country unique. Because if you think about it, you know, we have different religious denominations, we have different ethnic ancestries, but the thing that's supposed to unite us is a belief in these certain enduring truths and fundamental principles that, you know, reflect the founding of the country, the creation of the Constitution, the Bill of Rights. If you don't have that foundation, then I don't think people are fully prepared for citizenship. So we're going to make that something that's an emphasis. And I think that if there are teachers who excel in that, let's pay them more for doing that job. It's important. And let's really understand that this is something that will pay dividends for years and years into the future. So we've got a lot of work to do with respect to that. And then, of course, with regards to our schools, we need to do everything we can to make our schools safe for the students who are there. And there's a number of things that have been done. There's a number of things that are being proposed. I'm going to obviously be actively involved in that. But one thing I think we need to do that would be very helpful is let's harness all these retired police and military that we have here in Florida. We can create a great program where those folks can help provide security for the schools. And you do security for the schools, like obviously if someone was trying to commit harm, you want somebody to interdict that. But really, if you do security right, you're deterring people from viewing the schools as a target at all. And that's what we need to get to. And I think we can do that here very shortly. Look, I think it's exciting what's going on, you know, right now here in Florida. We are so much better off now than we were 8 years ago under Charlie Crist. We have an opportunity to do even better. You know, with respect to the economy, though, think about it. What the tax bill we just passed, like, yes, you know, lowered rates, simplified the code, lower business rates. I think we're seeing the benefits of that in terms of the economy. One of the best provisions of that for Florida, though, was getting rid of the subsidy for the high tax states. Because it used to be New York would raise taxes, they could just write it off. Basically, Florida had ended up paying more in taxes as a result of that. We got rid of that subsidy. And so what that's going to do is that's going to cause people to look to Florida as the place to be for more investment in a variety of industries, finance, technology, manufacturing. So this is a historic opportunity we can seize. But if you do what the Democrats want to do, and you raise taxes, and you increase bureaucracy, and you let trial lawyers run wild, and you do all this stuff, that's going to be like shooting ourselves in the foot. We will have blown a historic opportunity. So I'm confident that with good policies, you're going to see more opportunity for high-paying jobs in Florida, and we're going to be able to do it. So we're going to be able to do that. So let me also say this. So, sorry, guys. USA, 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 USA. I guess we had George Soros in the house with us. But here's the difference in the mindset. When these states like New York raise taxes and people leave, and then they look around and say, gee, you know, people are leaving, maybe we should look in the mirror and do better. No, they don't change. They don't reduce taxes. They double down on the bad policies and more people leave. So what does a state like New York do? Rather than take a critical look and try to change, they send revenue agents and station New York tax collectors in Florida to conduct surveillance over Florida citizens who have moved down here from other states. I can tell you this, when I'm governor, I'm kicking all the New York tax collectors out of Florida. Right now in Washington, we have a pending nomination to the U.S. Supreme Court. It's very important. If you look at not just Neil Gorsuch, but if you look at all the judges on the courts of appeals that have been put there by President Donald Trump, he has done the best job of appointing judges as any president in our lifetime. It's important. The next governor of Florida is in all likelihood going to have 3 nominations to the state Supreme Court on the first day in office. What that means is you have 3 liberal justices who have mandatory retirement. We've had an activist court for a generation. They strike down school choice, tort reform. They do things like Bush versus Gore. They even overturned a death sentence for the rapist and murderer of little Carly Bruscia on a technicality. They're out of control. On day one, with a guy like me as governor who will appoint strong constitutionalists to the Supreme Court, we can end judicial activism in Florida for a generation. And the final thing I'll say is this, when you're talking about electing a governor, whoever we elect, I hope it's me, but whoever we elect, that person is going to end up getting the title as governor. Just like in the Congress, when you have 435 people every 2 years, they take an oath and they get the title of congressman. When I was in the military, when you commission as an officer, everyone gets the title an officer. If you're in the Navy like me, you started as an ensign, Marine, second lieutenant, what have you. But just because you have those titles, the military officers, the congressman, and a governor, it doesn't make you a leader. Some are leaders, and some are not leaders. And I think if you look at my background leading in athletics, leading in the military, I mean, having served in Iraq with SEAL Team 1, that's the tip of the spear. And those guys know they protect our country big time, let me tell you that. My wife, Men, I did spend time in Guantanamo Bay, and I'm glad she pointed out it was as an officer, not as a detainee. And then you look in the Congress, fighting the swamp, fighting the political class, fighting the entrenched interests. It's not easy to do that. It's much easier to just go with the flow. But I've demonstrated that, so you'll know that when you elect me governor and I go in and take the office, you'll have a governor, but you'll also have a leader who's willing to fight for the people of Florida. So I need your support. I need you to talk to people. We got to win this thing big time, and we can't let up. We got to keep going. And I know we're going to win because we have a lot of great people standing beside us. And today we have somebody who is a friend of mine and somebody who, if you talk about Donald Trump Jr., obviously when your dad's president, you want your dad to succeed, and he's standing by his dad just like any good son would. But I'll tell you, he understands what we need to do in this country. He understands conservative principles. He's strong in articulating, a strong agenda, and he's a very effective defender of the president's policies, and also a great supporter of people like me. So I'm really honored that he decided to come to Florida to pay us all a visit. And without further ado, let me introduce Donald Trump Jr.
I love this. You can keep going all afternoon. I want to speak. Thank you very much, Ron, and to your whole family, and Dan and your family and everyone for being here. Also, have to thank Kimberly Guilfoyle, who's here with me. I think it's clear they like her more than all of us, but so Kimberly's on vacation and she's here with me. I mean, I'm the worst boyfriend ever. I mean, think about that, okay? She's going to political rallies. This is a terrible situation. I'm going to pay for it later, I'm sure. But no, thank you guys very much for the incredible welcome, and thank you for all of the teams. Donald Trump has lied to you guys. He has lied to you. Never! He said that you would be sick of winning. Not yet. Now, he said one day you would call him and say, Donald, please stop winning so much. Please give the other people a chance. But we're not Democrats. This isn't the participation medal world. We want to take care of our people first. We have plenty of problems. And what's great is that he's solving them. He's actually getting it done. Because what's amazing to me, and I'm new to this, I mean, I was a real estate guy, I built buildings, and then all of a sudden 2 years ago, too many people made too many stupid decisions. And he started getting a little bit vocal. And he started getting a little bit more vocal. But rather than doing what most people do, which is just throw stones, he actually had the guts to step up when they said, if you're complaining so much, why don't you do something about it? He said, okay. And so I got involved in this crazy journey, at that time. I was a surrogate when we had, what was it? It was 0% chance of winning? We were told we had 0% chance of winning. So guess what? I was your surrogate because no one else is going to join a campaign that has 0% chance of winning. So they said, Don, what do you know about politics? I don't know. I watched the news last night. Get out there. Let's see what happens. And we started, and we went on this incredible journey, and it really was incredible. I mean, for me, I've been blessed to be with great, fortune and just incredible lifestyle and all these things. But I guess the other part of me, from growing up with a grandfather that was a blue-collar guy and bringing me to, it was Eastern Europe at the time. He brought me there, and I got to see how other people really lived. I got into the outdoors, hunting, fishing, all those hobbies, and so I know people in the Midwest. When we started campaigning in Iowa during the primary, I'd go to people and they're saying, well, is this your sort of, the typical politician thing, right? Is this your sort of token friend from Iowa that you met 4 minutes ago? And I was like, no. I've been sleeping on this guy's couch during deer season for the last few years. He's actually a friend. So I got to go around the country and hear people's stories and see the pain that they felt watching their American dream get shipped abroad to some country where the people hate our guts. They hate our religion. They hate our freedoms. They literally hate everything about us. But I was watching the news, and I'm turning it on, and they're saying, no. These people who have watched their American dream shipped abroad, they should be more concerned about those people who hate their guts and their feelings. Do you believe this? You know exactly what I'm talking about. I thought I was watching the Onion News Network. Turns out that most of these networks these days are basically worse. But I thought it was a joke. And I'm watching it time and time again. And they're saying, we can't understand why Trump is doing so well. We can't understand what's possibly appealing about Trump putting Americans first. Don't get me wrong. There is nothing wrong with helping other people. But we have to take care of ourselves first. I use the analogy every time I go on a plane, and I'm on a lot of them these days, on the campaign trail, right? In the event of an emergency, the oxygen mask comes down. What do you do first? You put yours on before helping those. So, how about this? Let's help others when we're not number 28 in educating our children behind a long list of third world countries. How about once we've fixed our infrastructure, we take care of other people's infrastructure? How about when, as we are now doing, after years and decades of neglect, we fix our military, then we help others do that with theirs. You just said it. I said, he ran a common sense campaign. And that's the only thing that Washington, D.C. doesn't have. They have money, they have lobbyists, they have everything. They don't have any common sense. That's right. Because everyone there has been bought and paid for in some way, shape, or form. They've been doing this their whole lives. I used to love watching our opponent during the presidential race talking about creating jobs. It's like everyone, hey, think about it. What jobs, other than a couple lobbyists, what jobs had they ever created? Ever.
Cover.
They have only signed the back of a paycheck, never the front. Right? So to have someone that has that common sense, someone who's actually done it in the real world, practice, not theory, it's amazing what happens. Remember when they said, during one of the debates, he said, there's no reason we can't get GDP above 3%, even 4%. How about 5%? They laughed and they said, oh, this is such a joke and it's terrible, you can never do it. Well, just because Obama never broke 2 doesn't mean that someone that actually had some business experience, that someone actually had some acumen in this, couldn't do it. And so the Atlanta Fed last week said 4.5%. Think about that. Just so you know, each point is $3 trillion. All right? Think about that. From to 4.5 in 18 months, that's pretty good. All right? That's about half our national debt right there. All right? When you think about it, those are big numbers. So that's what's going on. That's what we have a great opportunity over the next, let's call it 6.5 years. To have someone in there who has that common sense. who's actually fighting for real Americans. And think about that. I mean, think of the irony that the sort of brash billionaire from New York, I can say it, I get it. Pretty ironic. He's the guy that was able to relate to real, hardworking Americans. Right? He could have whatever he wanted, he could do whatever he wanted. There's no one in this country that needed that job less than him. Right? And yet, he gets up there and he takes it, and he owns it, and he does it. Right? He's the first person in the history of politics who is getting killed and criticized for doing everything he said he was going to do. Yeah. Think of the irony of that. So what does this have to do with Ron? Why am I here in 2,000% humidity, right, dragging Kimberly on her vacation? It's because Ron DeSantis was there from day one. Right? He got it. He saw it. He went on TV. He was with us when it wasn't exactly cool to be with us. Right? He was with us when it didn't really behoove him to be with us. Right? Back in the 0% days. He got up and he fought. And I see him every day. And I see him on Fox News. And I see him there and he's fighting. And he's taking it to him because he's realizing now that the Republican Party, you can actually fight, guys. You can actually do what the other side does. You know, I remember during the original DACA shutdown when Schumer folded and all these things, I got a call because I got to know so many of these guys. And by the way, Matt Geatz, we'll call you up in a second, Matt, because Matt's been another great fighter, Matt Geatz. The Schumer folds on the DACA nonsense, and 3 Republican congressmen called me. They all said basically the same thing, but one of the guys said, because I just remember it so distinctly, because it just shows sort of the mentality of what's happened in Washington, especially if you're a conservative, and frankly everywhere. He goes, Don, what just happened? I go, what are you talking about? What just happened? What do you mean? He goes, no, what just happened? I go, we won? He goes, yeah, we don't win. I mean, think about that. That's the mentality that's been bred into us because, you know, the other side's going to call you a name, they're going to call you something terrible, it may not have anything to do with what you're actually talking about, but you're still afraid of it for some reason. I go, yeah, it's a little different now. There's a new sheriff in town, someone with guts, someone that will actually take on the nonsense, someone who will actually fight. And Ron's done just that. He's one of the few people that got it. They got it early. More people are getting it. We saw it during the campaign. I'd be out on the trail, and people, they'd come up to me. Hey, Don, whispering. You know, there was the guys like you, okay, with the MAGA hats, and they, you know, never any doubts, right? Never. There were some that never had those doubts too. But you know what? They were afraid to voice their opinion. They were afraid to be called a name, and they'd come up and they'd whisper, Don, do a good job. And it wasn't what the media said where they say, oh, it's only angry old white guys. And no, every stereotype in the world that you would think would never be. There were times I usually get myself in trouble. See? Exactly. Wait, hey, listen. Exactly. I like it. Every stereotype. I'd be in small little airports again, not at rallies where I know they're coming to see me speak and they're fans, but you know, the places in between. And I'm saying, oh boy, that person's coming up to me. Well, based on the media and what they're telling me, I'm about to get slapped and it's going to get ugly. And they gave me the, keep it up, you guys are doing a good job. Someone needs to do something about this nonsense. Because they've been lied to for decades. They've been made promise after promise from both sides. It's why we had people from 23 to 83, more people than anyone. I've never even registered to vote because I never believed it would actually make a difference, but I did it for your father this time. And those were the kind of people that we attracted. When we did polling, our online polling versus telephone polling, it was a 15-point spread across the board. Guess what? On the phone, they were like, I'm not really willing to engage. I'm not willing to engage. I won't say anything. So we're saying, man, we're down 15 points. That doesn't make sense. But online, we're 15 points up because when people were by themselves, like they would be, in a voting booth, we're just going to hit this little button right here and no one's going to know. Just me. Even on election day, we called it the ghost vote because we're like, where's this 15% coming from? Even on election day, we said, you know, exit polling. People are coming out. Well, these people are voting for Hillary. These people are voting for Trump. And then there's these people that are doing this. I'm saying, I was like, that's our guy. They're like, no, we're down 12. I go, no, we're up 3. Just count the guy that did this. Okay? Because they don't want to engage, they don't care. That's a Trump guy. Okay? And they were right. Look at what's going on. There is not a single matrix in existence, economic or otherwise, where we are not better off now than we were 4 years ago under the previous disaster administration. Not a single one. So when I see the Democrats running on, doing everything against Donald Trump, I say, so wait, you want, sir, do you want lower or higher all-time African-American unemployment? You don't want it to get worse, you want it better. So, Hispanic, same thing, right? All-time low Hispanic, all-time low African-American, all-time low women. What is the other side campaigning on? They want to change all that? What about the stock market? Job numbers? What about the fact that the only problem we have is we don't have enough workers to now fill these jobs because companies are actually hiring again for the first time in history? Think about that. The other side has no platform. If Donald Trump came out and said, I am in favor of oxygen, they would suffocate themselves to prove that he's wrong. It doesn't make any sense. So, the reality is, hate and nonsense. There's another word that starts with a B and an S. Right? Hate and that is not a political platform. And that is all they have. So that is why we're here today. To get guys like Ron in positions of power. Don't kid yourself. I love them in Congress and I love them on TV. But Florida, being the state that it is, with the demographics that it has, you need a Republican governor to keep it running. There's a reason you've had a Republican governor for so long, and Florida continues to grow the way it has. Because you don't have the stupid policies of the left. Overtaxation, overregulation, burden upon burden upon burden, where the only people that win are the people in government and their buddies. Okay? We want business to win. We want small business to win.
Second Amendment!
That's going to matter. Obviously, the Second Amendment. So, that's why we're here. Ron can do such a good job with this state. He can make sure it runs on the same principles that we've all been talking about, that we're all here for, that we've all supported so strongly. And he's going to do that very well. He's going to fight as hard for you as he has for my father, as he has in D.C. Things like tax reform. All of these things that have been so powerful in reforming this country, in getting this country back on the right track, because we've been on the wrong track for far too long. Matt Geatz has also been, Matt, get up here, come on, get up here. This is for Ron, but we're gonna do a 2-for-1 special here. All right, 2-for, might as well we're here. Wait, you wanna say something?
Lieutenant Governor!
Hey, it's good to see everybody. I'm a little late. I think my pilot was a Democrat. Too slow, too inefficient, but I had to get down here to Orlando to be with all my fellow irredeemables, deplorables, all my fellow Floridians who like clinging to our guns and our Bibles. And together, we will elect Ron DeSantis, the next governor of the state of Florida. I am so proud of our president, and I'm proud that our country has been energetically engaging in our president's agenda. I mean, we got an economy that's growing and illegal immigration that's slowing. We got a stock market that's up, we got unemployment that's down, and we are draining the swamp and rebuilding our military. America is rising right now, and I can feel it. The reason I wanted to be here today is because we don't want Florida to be at the end of the prosperity line. We don't want to be in the middle of the pack. We're Florida, baby. We put a man on the moon. We got the war fighters who go the farthest and fight the hardest for the protection of this country. I'm a little biased, but I think we got the prettiest beaches and some of the prettiest people in the entire United States of America. And right here in Orlando, we've got a hub of imagination and innovation. We like to have fun. That's pretty good too, right? Right here in Orlando, and I have every expectation that Florida can be first, because in the Sunshine State, we never get tired of winning, do we? Now, for Florida to be first, I just think we need a governor who's going to work hand in hand with our president. I think that's absolutely essential. I don't know if you've heard, but Donald Trump endorsed Ron DeSantis for governor. Will you do me a favor and make sure that every Republican alive in the state of Florida knows that? Will you help us out? Adam Putnam said that Donald Trump was vile. He said that Donald Trump was dishonorable. And when Martha McCallum pressed him on that in the Fox News debate, he said, "I never said those things about the president." You see what he did there? He said the stuff about Trump, but he didn't say it while he was president. This is why people hate career politicians. You know, Adam Putnam had a chance to say, "I was wrong. Donald Trump is making this country more prosperous, more energetic, more enthusiastic," but he didn't do that. And that's what frustrates me. You know, Ron DeSantis, he's been one of the folks we've been able to rely on to get the Trump agenda passed, to get America going again. When James Comey was fired, and by the way, James Comey should have been fired. Ron was one of the first guys to go out there and say the president was right, Comey was wrong, and we will expose the deep state if it is the last thing we do. What did Adam Putnam say about the Jim Comey firing? He said, "The timing is curious." Do you want a governor that takes James Comey's side over our president? Absolutely not. And you know what? One more thing I gotta mention. Do y'all support term limits for members of Congress? I support. Now let me ask you this. See how honest we're all being. Do you ever think that Congress will impose term limits on itself? No. I think we have a lot of stable geniuses here. A lot of stable geniuses. Well, Mark Levin wrote a book about this. Mark Levin was actually campaigning with Ron and I just a few days ago. He's endorsed Ron. He understands Ron's the true conservative in this race. But he wrote a book and said, our founders were so brilliant that they gave us these tools in Article 5 of the Constitution to come together as states and actually demand accountability out of Washington. And I am very proud that Florida followed that instruction, and we have actually joined the list of states that want to have term limits for members of Congress. When Adam Putnam opposed term limits for members of Congress, he didn't put Florida first. He put his career politician buddies first. Ron DeSantis is leading the fight for term limits in Congress, and as our governor, he'll put together a coalition so that we can demand accountability and finally drain the swamp in Washington, D.C. Thank you all so much. Thanks for being here with me. Back to you, Don Jr.
I may have to bring you on the road, man. So there you have it, guys. The decision, she's on vacation. We're going to leave Kimberly alone today, okay? Worst vacation ever. You can stand up, probably. Yeah. Maybe Kimberly 2024. So, guys, the decision is simple. All right? We have to get out there. We have to stay engaged. You have to bring your friends out there. You can't just say, you know what? Because the problem that we could face is we are getting everything that we want because we have finally someone who's delivering. But we can't just sit back on the laurels and say, hey, this is great. We're not going to be engaged. We're not going to show up. We're not going to vote because we have everything and we're getting fat and lazy. That doesn't work. No. We have to stay in this fight. You've seen the other side. They're motivated heavily. By what? I can't quite figure it out because it makes no sense to me. But hate again, still going to be a powerful motivator. You have to get out. You have to get your friends out. You got to vote for Ron. You got to vote for Matt. You got to vote down the Republican ticket. And you got to get your friends out to do the same. Don't take it for granted. Because just because, and I see all the MAGA hats and I see all the, just feel the love from this room. Just because Donald Trump isn't on the ticket doesn't mean that everything that he has accomplished is not on the ticket. It is. The second the Democrats get control, you see it. Jim Comey is now pushing for the Democrats. Right? Why? Because he doesn't want his corruption investigated. He would like to end that thing in November, and they're doing whatever they can to stall that. Guys like Matt, guys like Ron, they've been pushing so hard to bring this out because, listen, let's bring it all out into the light. Right? Just think, all this would have gone unnoticed, unseen. This isn't America. If this happened in a third world banana republic, we'd say, wow, that's terrible. It's happening here. Right? Don't forget that. Stay in the game, stay in the fight, get out there, tell your friends, let's get Ron elected, make sure Matt gets reelected, and keep the House, let's keep the Senate, let's keep this going for another 6.5 years. Okay? Thank you very much. I love that you guys are helping make America great again. Get up here, Ron. USA! USA! It's so nice that we can say that. Imagine that ever being chanted at a Democratic rally. Never. Not even once. Not even once. Thank you very much, guys. Thank you.